prepared for the next season. I'm super grateful. I think there's been times over the last 2 or 3 months where we didn't know if we were going to play or how we were going to play or when we were going to play, and it's good to start to put some planning behind that. I know the league we're working on a million different protocols to do this as safely as possible, and we want to do it right and really give a lot of credit to the league for getting us to this point. I thought I'd give a quick overview of the offseason and free agency and the draft. We had a lot of opportunities and a lot of things we looked at in free agency, some that were published in the media and some that weren't. And we wanted to be hyperactive in that arena to look at some things. Unfortunately or fortunately, we weren't able to land a player. You never know the exact reasons why. But we were okay. We put together an A, B, C, D, and E plan. And I remember with spending time with Chad and Kelly and Ted and Ryan and Vance and our analytics team, and then going to Herb. And one of the things we felt very comfortable with was standing pat with bringing Justin and Jakar back. And so if none of the top options came through, we were in a great position of standing pat with a team that was the fourth team in the East last year, with a modicum of injuries throughout the year, and that we felt like bringing this team back, having some continuity, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, was really important because, when you look at teams that have gone deep into the playoffs, either they've made a huge move or they've had some serious continuity. And so one of the things we decided, it was either going to be a big move or we were going to value continuity. And a lot of people would say, well, it's easy to keep the continuity. It is not. Justin had a lot of interest from other teams. Jakar had interest from other teams. And I would tell you that both those guys made it very clear from the very beginning that if we could get close or give them a fair deal, that they would be back. And that's always good to hear. Moving on to the draft, we drafted Cassius Stanley. A little bit of a backstory. I've known Cassius's father, Jerome, for 25, 30 years. He helped me when I was in the minor leagues to get players. He's been around basketball for a long time and couldn't be happier to working with Cassius and his father. And then we did the trade with TJ Leaf to bring in Jalen McHugh. And I think if you looked at kind of the overall thought to what we wanted to do with this team with Cassius and Jalen is bring in some athletic ability. Cassius, in my opinion, was one of the best athletes in college basketball. I spent a lot of time talking to Coach K around the person that he is. He called him one of the best kids he's ever coached. And he told me that he thought that if he came back for another year, that he would have been for sure a lottery pick. And when we were going through the draft, we were quite surprised that he got to 54. Our scouts had him pegged in the first round. We had him ranked in the first round. And so we feel like we got a first round talent at 54, which is sometimes a little challenging, but we're excited about putting him in the program and letting him grow. With Jalen, you see a big time athlete in the G League. If you've seen some of his highlights, he has some tools that are truly unique, very explosive around the rim, quick to the basket, but he's got to learn the game of basketball and improve. And so those both players, amongst a couple others, will be coming into camp, we're going to have 13, maybe 14 or 13 and a half guarantees. And we're going to have a lot of competition for that last spot or last two spots. And that's something that we haven't had in the past, and we really wanted to have is real competition for the last spots. Excited about this season. I'm praying and knocking on wood that we can have a full squad. One of the things we felt like last year is coming in fourth in the East with a lot of injuries. If we can stay healthy, which we're going to, we'll be a tough out. And that's at the end of the day. We want to field a tough team. And then I think with talking with coach and making that change, one of the things we feel very strongly about is we're going to try to do our best to get this team peaking at the right time. And that sometimes comes with consequences during the season. So we're not going to put short-term decisions ahead of getting this team prepared for the playoffs and in long term. But it's been a complete breath of fresh air right now around here. There's a lot of energy in our building. The players feel it. The feedback I'm getting from them has been incredible. And I credit Coach Nate Bjorkgren and his staff to bringing some really unique energy to this building. And I think they're getting prepared as much as they possibly can. And we're getting ready to kick this off. And I'm super excited to see practice. You know, a lot of times you know what's going to happen in practice in the NBA. I do not know what's going to happen in practice. We're going to have some competition at some positions, and that's what we want. And we want to develop. We're gonna relook at how we're developing, and we've seen that already. And guys coming in and working out, and there's going to be some new emphasis, and I'm excited to see that. So I guess with that, we'll take some questions.
All right, we'll start off. Bob Kravitz.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Bob.
The big story I've here has been Gordon Hayward. To the extent that you're willing to share, can you tell us why that deal did not go down?
Well, I would tell you we pursued as hard as we possibly could. Other than that, you know, between two teams, I always feel like that's very private. I don't like when it gets out in the media of what players. The one thing we did differently is if a player got talked in that trade, we talked to our own players and let them know. And we tried to be very proactive and try to be extremely transparent when that was when it was out there and before it got out there. And that goes back to a couple of years ago when Chad and I sat down and we told our players that we would do that. And we made a pact with our players that if we did that, that they would always come back and have 2 feet in. And I know that's challenging for our players for sure. But we did that. We almost had a trade for a couple of our past players. We told them it didn't work out for the trade. And both those players said, thank you for letting me know, because our families are involved. So we try to look at the family side of this. We try to engage in our players. And then when we didn't do a deal, we let those players know that we want them back and we want them 2 feet in. And they both said, the players that we were talking about in terms of this trade, both said no problem. And they were extremely thankful that we let them know. So it probably has some cons, and we're probably not aware of all of them, but we do try to think about the family first, Bob. So yes, we pursued. It didn't work out. We actually called Charlotte when the trade was announced, and I know Mitch and Chad knows Michael Jordan very well, and we told them congratulations.
Thanks.
Tony East.
Yeah, Kevin, the time between free agency, the draft, and training camp is just so short this year. How did that, it only being 6 or 7 days, impact the way you guys thought and made decisions in this offseason?
Well, normally, Tony, what happens is first day there's a frenzy and a bunch of players go off the board. And then we've actually done a lot of analytics and studies about after 2 days, after 3 days, after 4 days. And we feel like that was thrown out the window because the third and fourth day guys were actually done in the first day in the afternoon or at the night and the next day. So everything got kind of pushed together. And so you had to react. You couldn't wait. And so getting Jakar done was really critical, and getting Justin done was critical, and probably sooner rather than what happened in the past. And, I actually like, now that we've gone through this, a compressed draft / free agent. And I like the 48-hour turnaround if you're going to do offers on players. And I think it works out better. You just got to be willing to pounce when you see a player that you're really interested in, because there's a high chance that you could lose them if you wait it out.
Greg Doyle.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, Kevin. Staying the continuity, and every situation obviously is unique, and you guys have those two bigs. So how much of this is you're betting on Nate Bjorkgren to figure out what hasn't been figured out yet?
Well, we've done a lot of studies. I mean, they play really well together. I mean, I think we're a +4 when they're on the court together. So I think a lot has been made about, you can't play with them both. And really, offensively, they're very good together because they complement. One can shoot, and one's a great diver poster. So I think Nate has made it very clear. You're going to see Miles shooting a lot of threes. He's going to get the green light to shoot a lot of threes and early threes. And I think as a whole, we're going to try to move away from the mid range and step those back into threes. But that's going to take some time. Miles will have to work on it. I think Domas is working on it. But it's something that we feel confident about what Nate's style is. It's definitely different, from just seeing the workouts. The only thing I can tell you is that as a person who's been in this league for 29 years, it feels like there's one way to do things, and you do it sort of over and over again. I'm seeing things completely different in a workout. And only way I can explain it is it's a pace. It's like, there are certain football coaches that are like really moving the pace very quickly. And I can tell that pace in practice is different than what I've ever seen. And so I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see Domas and Miles in that pace. But we're not afraid to play a little different either. If you do what other teams are doing, then it's only about talent. And I think we all know that talent wins in this game, specifically in the playoffs. So we have to decide, are we going to play exactly the same, or are we going to try to do things different? We're okay doing things different. And that pace of what I'm seeing in practice, the pace in which Nate is out there working with some of these players, the feedback's been incredible. So whether that translates into immediate wins, I'm not sure, but I do feel confident you'll see a different team.
Kent Sterling.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Kent.
You mentioned that you believe and you want Nate to have the team kind of be forward thinking and not sacrifice long-term vision for short-term gains. Does that mean that in the past with McMillan, there was that kind of thing where the Pacers were trying to win every single game, maybe in sacrificing that long-term thing?
Well, I would never look, Nate McMillan got us into the playoffs for 4 straight years. We wish we would have played better, but yes, at the bottom line is we want to make sure that we're doing things and looking at the long-term benefit versus the short-term benefit. And to be honest with you, if there's anybody to blame, it's me. We've always talked about let's win as many possible games in the regular season, get the highest seed, and then take it from there. So what I would say is it's changed a little bit in that it won't be you have to win this game, and then if you don't, you look at the next game, you have to win that. It's more about taking a longer term approach, a more development approach. And I do believe, look, I don't want to get into coaching. What I have with Coach B right now is a phenomenal relationship of let's do this together. There's no pressure to win one game or two games. Let's be the best we can at the very end of the season. Now that's tough. Like we've all been on teams and you plan that out, but it does make some sacrifice. What does that look like? To me, it means like you're 10 games into the season. You see a player who's on the bench who hasn't played as much, but he's practicing very well. Maybe he gets a crack for 4 or 5 games. Maybe you throw a guy in there and give them an opportunity, because you look at some of the other teams in this league, specifically Toronto, they were open to letting guys get in the rotation for a game or two or 3 or 4 and see what they had. And ultimately, when you do that, what happens is guys prepare a little bit better. They get excited because they know maybe in a week they get thrown into a game and they stay a little bit more ready. And there's cons and there's pros to that as well. And we hope by the end of the year, those cons add up and we're a better team. We're a better team from 1 to 12 than just 1 to 5 on our rotation. So I think that's something we're looking forward to, Kent.
Wheat, Hotchkiss?
Hey, Kevin, you've talked in the past about how Domas and Miles have told you that they enjoy playing together and that they want to make it work. Was there a general sentiment in your conversation with all the players about wanting to keep this group together and see what they can do this year with hopefully better health and a new coaching staff?
Well, I can tell you this, that, when I talk to the players and the biggest feedback was from them is we didn't perform as well, and we know we're better than that in the playoffs. Now, we don't use the excuse of Domas, our all-star playing. We're not going to do that. And so the feedback I got from Malcolm and from Victor and from TJ is we need to see what this team is healthy. We need to see what this team is with a little bit different system. And so we're excited about that. And, I look at the rest of the league. There are teams that improved in the East. But at the end of the day, we had the 4th best team in the East with major injuries to our top players. And so we think there's a lot of opportunity to capitalize on, knock on wood, being healthy, having a new system, and see what we can do with this team if we think longer term versus shorter term.
Bob Kravitz?
You knew there was going to be a Victor Oladipo question.
It took 19 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. About a week and a half ago, Victor told The Athletic that he was completely committed to being a Pacer for the long term. Has he shared that sentiment with you? Are you convinced that he is in fact fully committed to a long-term stay in Indianapolis?
Well, Bob, one of the things in this league I always think that is the most important is there's some noise that goes on, whether it's coming from internal or whether it's external. I try to block out the noise as much as I can, and I'm human. I hear it, and so we try to address it with our players. I would say this, that Victor and his agent not only have said they want to be here, but that they have pounded the table that they want to be here and they're 2 feet in. And that was my question at the end of last year to Victor. And, I think it took some time for him to think about what are his goals, what are his long-term goals. But it's amazing. I got a call from his agent yesterday, and it's the same thing. He can't wait to get to camp. He can't wait to show that he's healthy and that he's 100% committed. And I have to take people at their word. So, we're going to get asked the question a ton. And the reality is I'm going to let the relationship I have with Victor stand on its own merits. Maybe we've not done as good of job. Maybe he hasn't done as good a job as being open and communicative. That's changed. I want to do better, and just like I'm going to do with all our players. And I'm excited because I think Nate Bjorkgren is a very transparent coach. You know where you are. He's super positive. And to be honest with you, I think what has changed the tide in terms of how he feels about us is I think Victor has developed a really unique relationship with Nate Bjorkgren, and he's put his arm around him, but he's also told him some things that are tough. I think he has the tough conversation, but he also puts his arm around him. And there's a lot of things I can say to Victor, but the most important relationship in all of this is our players to our coaches. And I think you're seeing a coaching staff that's willing to really understand our players from a deeper perspective, and that allows them to play better, to feel better about being here, and ultimately be a better teammate. So that's the best I can answer it, Bob.
Just to follow up real quick, where is he health-wise?
Oh, I mean, I haven't seen him here. He hasn't been in the building yet, but he shares videos. And to me, if he's not 100%, I'd be surprised.
Okay. Thanks.
Jeremiah?
Hey, Kevin, just another health question. You've referenced Domas a few times. How is he doing? Would you expect him at the start of training camp? And maybe in addition to that, Bill Bano retained. I know that Bill and Domas are very close. What went into the decision to maintain that continuity with Bill, and maybe did his relationship with Domas help?
I think it did help, but with the coaching staff, I wanted to be completely more hands-off and allow Coach Nate to bring in the people he felt like brought out his best and maybe covered and helped with his weaknesses. So I think early on he had Bill targeted, and they spent some time. I think they'd had a former relationship. So I believe that had something to do with it. Domas looks good. We expect him full in camp. We'll have to watch the foot a little bit. There might be some times where, we have to sit him out some. But as of now, we're expecting him being full at practice. But we'll watch it. And when he gets here, we'll have a better idea exactly. But he says he feels great. So all systems go there.
Thanks.
Kevin Brockway?
Yeah, Kevin, how would you evaluate Goga's rookie season, and what are your kind of hopes and expectations for year two for him?
Probably of any of the players, we've seen more dramatic change has been in Goga. He's lost a lot of body fat. I can tell in his eyes he's just more determined. I think last year he came in here and was a little it was a lot for him. He was without his family. They couldn't get over. He was able to go home for a little bit. And after that, I saw a renewed enthusiasm. We have to have Goga play. For us to be our best team, he's got to come in and play some minutes. So, he's got to earn it. But what we've seen out of him out of the last couple of weeks is somebody that's very determined to show us he's a basketball player and deserves minutes. But he's got to go earn it, Kevin. There's no other doubt about it. When you bring in draft picks, everybody gets all excited about draft picks. And, draft picks are fantastic, but they have to develop. And so we have to put a lot of energy into developing Goga and to helping Cassius, to helping Edmund and Jalen. So hopefully they'll all grow and have a chance. And we haven't done as good a job as I would have hoped in developing. And I think we have to give these younger kids a crack. If they prove it that they're willing to work, then hopefully they can get in the court and get a few more minutes throughout the year.
Charlie Clifford.
Kevin, it's interesting because it looked like TJ Warren was your best player at the end of the year, and his name, just for whatever reason, doesn't get mentioned much. How much did he earn last year, and where is his ceiling in your eye as Nate takes over?
Well, we kind of felt the same way. You know, he led us in scoring throughout the regular season, and just game by game, he was very consistent. He and Domas, I thought throughout the whole year, kind of carried us. We have super high expectations of him. And I think the league, we don't get too worried about that. But from my conversations around the league, the bubble allowed him to break out, and I would be surprised if there was any backtracking with him. As much as he loves to play, I know he'll come in great shape. And we expect him to not only become more of a leader on the court, but now that he's been a year, to hand that leadership torch to him, because he has some abilities that are incredible. Like, he's the one guy that I've ever been with in my 29 years in the NBA that I look at halftime and I grab the box score and I think he's got 6 points and he's got 15. And then I look at the post game and I'm like, I think he's probably got 16 or 17 and he's got 25. And oh, by the way, he's 9 for 11 from the field. He's just a sneaky scorer, and we've got to take advantage of that. And we've got to play him at the 4. Everybody keeps saying, well, you guys need a starting 4. Last I checked, when he played the 4, he was nearly unstoppable. And so I can imagine he'll play some 4 this year too.
Kristen Eric.
Yeah, KP, the wings under Nate seem to be that they're going to be very, very important. So a couple of things. Where is Jeremy Lamb as far as his rehab is concerned? And how important was it to re-sign Justin Holiday?
It was huge, huge signing. You sound like a former president there. I'm not trying to, but it was a big signing. Justin meant so much. People make a lot of what players do on the court. We have a sort of a metric from my first year being a president. We call it the Al Jefferson rule. And Al that first year took a much smaller role, but became hugely important. And Justin did it from playing, but also from when he was on the bench, keeping guys positive, keeping guys ready, talking to our younger players. He was important for us, and we feel like that his leadership will grow now that he's been here a year. And we talked about that as how he can become more influential with our team off the court as well. What was the wings? Justin and who else, Chris?
Jeremy Lamb, how's his rehab going and getting ready for camp?
Jeremy's had an incredible offseason, and he will be practicing at some point in time in December. And my best guess is sometime in the middle of January, he will get on the court, if not sooner. So we're real. I don't want to push it. And, there's ups and downs of any injury, but best guess is he's on the court late January, and he had a big effect on our team. We missed him last year. And so in a wing-driven league right now, getting him back will be critically important.
Scott Agnes.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey,
in
Scott.
addition to new coach, you have a lot of change in staff and behind-the-scenes people, guys that have been there a long time. Is part of that you wanting some fresh blood, some fresh perspective in there?
Yeah, from a player standpoint or from?
I'm saying you have the continuity from a player standpoint, but
Right.
you do not from a staff perspective, both on the bench and behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would say this, that continuity is probably one of the most underrated things in this league. And it's easy to get caught up in when a team makes a bunch of moves and a bunch of trades and you go get all excited. But in reality, the studies show that if you keep a team and have some continuity, the relationships they build grows and you feel it on the court in wins and losses. That being said, with new Nate coming on and hiring a new staff, we're going to have to learn that a little bit. There's going to be a learning curve. And that's why I say it won't be trying to grind out every single win during the season. We'll look at the long term, middle to long term, and trying to get this team prepared for the playoffs. And that's going to take some time. So, but I did want some freshness. I wanted guys to have some joy when they walk in here. I think you guys have had a chance to spend some time with Nate a little bit already, Nate Bjorkgren, and he's a really unique person in that I can't get him to say anything bad about anybody. He just is a half glass full kind of guy, and we've gone through some things already, and a trade fell through, and he was like, "No problem, we'll figure it out." And when he's out on the court, I saw something that I thought was terrific. And we had a bunch of players on the court, and they're doing some drills. And he said to every player on this court right now is a phenomenal shooter. And from the past, we probably know that maybe we didn't have a great shooter on the court. But the way he said it made everybody believe that they were a great shooter. And that's his biggest strength that I can see, is he gets people to believe that they can really, really do it. The joke is he's sort of like Ted Lasso. If you guys watch Ted Lasso, that show, he's got a little Ted Lasso in him. And I love that movie with Jason, or that show with Jason Sudeikis. And so there's kind of joke around that he's a little Ted Lasso-ish. And sometimes it's all about X and O's, and sometimes it's nothing about X and O's. And I can feel right now the non-X and O's are really fun around Coach Bjorkgren. I like that part of it. And so there's that, there's the art and science of coaching. And I think the art he's brilliant at. I'm excited to get in and learn from that.
Tony East.
Kevin, earlier you mentioned the pursuit of Hayward. The East is getting a little better, and you mentioned early in the offseason constant improvement, and you're going to look everywhere within this organization to try to improve the team. Is that why you decided to chase a talent like that and improve now, or is there more to the timing of a big move like that you pursue?
Well, again, I don't want to go too much into specific people. I respect when a player's with another. But if you can add a player that materially improves you, you have to take a shot. And we're not afraid of taking those shots. It hurt a little bit more this time because the feedback was that he wanted to be here. So we were probably overplaying in the trade, but we were willing to try to get a special player. That being said, we're going to keep trying to improve the roster. That's to be, that we're going to try to do that, but it can't come at a cost that's so debilitating that it doesn't make sense. And so we felt like we've got a lot of really good players on the team, and plan stand pat was a very good plan, because getting Justin, getting Jakar, and running this team back that was fourth in the East, had a lot of injuries. Okay, let's give this team another chance. There will be a time when there's turnover. Right now, we didn't feel like, unless it made us materially better, like a no-brainer trade where were we going after an A-list star, we were going to do that. Other than that, it had to be a complete no-brainer.
Bob Kravitz.
Hey, Kevin, quick question. You've talked several times about playing the long game and having guys prepared for the postseason. Might that involve some load management?
Boy, that's a tough question. If you talk to my predecessor in this position, he would tell you load management's a bunch of baloney. There's data that says that there's really something to it. I think that I wouldn't call it load management for us, more than let's give certain players an opportunity if they're proving it in practice. Meaning, if a guy's played a bunch of minutes and it's causing his output, and we can measure that output to slip a little bit, well, let's give another person an opportunity to get in there. So I don't know if I call it load management. What I think it's more about is if a player is maybe not playing as well, or a player in practice is showing us more, let's show some confidence in that younger player, or a player that's earned it in practice, and let them earn it in practice. And when you have a good team, Bob, in my opinion, players of that caliber, a Malcolm Brogdon, when he knows he's not playing as well because he's a little tired, is okay with a player like Aaron Holiday playing a few more minutes. They're okay with that. So I hope we can create that culture that allows players to sacrifice a little bit when they know they're not playing as well. And when players are playing better, that they get more of a crack out there, instead of being so stringent on this player plays this so many minutes, this during this quarter, this game. And so I think there's going to be a little bit more flexibility on how we play. And I think that's our load management opportunity.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, Kevin, for a clarity standpoint on Domas, I'm curious, do you know if he's going to be doing that national team Eurobasket here coming up? Has there been a decision on that?
No decision been made. We want to sit down. That's going to be tough for a lot of players. We may have more than one, believe it or not. So no decision, and we haven't seen anything out of the league on that. The league usually gives us some direction on that. So once that comes out, you'll know. It'll come out. Obviously, we want our players to feel like they can represent their country and some of the biggest things, but you also have to balance that with we have this NBA, and we have to take care of it right now too, because I think, as we all would admit, sports are in a flux, and if we don't take care of our main job, then that could be a problem. So I think it'll be a balance, but the league will look at it in depth, and I think they'll make the right decisions.
Tony East.
Yeah, Kevin, with training camp coming up so soon, do you guys plan to carry the maximum 20 guys into camp, or is it different this year with a shortened G League season and a short off season?
We'll be close. I would say 18 to 20 will probably be our target. Depends what happens in the next couple of days. We have some players that are wanting to come to camp, but I don't want to give out another guarantee, or I'm okay with maybe a partial, but we need to have some real high level competition with those last players. And that gets them ready for the G League potential. So I want the ability to a player, if he really impresses, put him on the roster full time.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Kevin, thanks for the time.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. I'll end with this. Be safe. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Take care of your family tomorrow, and look forward to seeing you guys someday at the field house. Can't wait, man. I miss you guys.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
You too, Bob.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome. Oh, and by the way, go IU football. I love it.